Just because something worked yesterday does not mean it's going to work today. If you're doing what you did yesterday in terms of tactics and you've been in business for a little while, there's a good chance we need to go back and look at your tactics and make sure they're still effective and they're still cutting edge. All right, guys, I got something pretty cool for you today. In fact, it is probably one of the more practical, useful things that we put into video format and sent out to the brands that we work with. Certainly very cool. It's something I enjoy working with here within our agency, and it is a plateau breaking framework. It is the one that we use when we see brands that we work with plateau on Amazon or the other marketplaces. We use this in order to break through those plateaus and force growth. Now, if you've been in business for any amount of time, you've hit a plateau. Some kind or another, you've hit some kind of a wall. It happens to all of us. It is part of the entrepreneurial journey. But unfortunately, when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel that way. Usually there's some anxiety and it's hard to figure out why you're there or what's going wrong. So I want to take some of the complexity out of this. I want to take some of the unknown out of these plateaus, and I'm going to give you a framework that you can use. It's got a number of levers that you can pull, and if you get one of these correct, you will force growth into your business. All right, guys, before we break through, Jesus Christmas. All right, guys, one of the biggest reasons that you, oh my God. All right, guys, before we get into the good stuff, one of the biggest reasons that you haven't broken through your brand's plateau is you haven't hit the like button yet. So let's go ahead and take that first step in breaking through your brand's plateau. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment so we can continue bringing you great content. Let's go ahead and dig in, but before we tackle the actual framework, I want to talk about the top reasons that brands actually decline. Now, yes, there can be an infinite number of reasons that can cause either a decline or a plateau, but we find that it usually boils down to one of three things. Number one, you're using yesterday's tactics. Just because something worked yesterday does not mean it's going to work today. Now, if you are a roofer or a plumber or something like that, this might not be so applicable, but when you're doing anything online, you've got to remember that you've got like 7 billion potential competitors, right? The ball moves very quickly and you have to keep your eye on it. So if you're doing what you did yesterday in terms of tactics and you've been in business for a little while, there's a good chance we need to go back and look at your tactics and make sure they're still effective and they're still cutting edge. That's number one. Number two, you lost focus. All right, this is the easiest to resolve, and it happens. Now, did I say that you got lazy? No, there's lots of reasons that you might lose focus in business without being lazy. You may have to focus on something else like supply chain. We all just went through the pandemic just a couple of years ago, and everything became about supply chain. That happens. There's a number of reasons that you can lose focus, but when you do lose focus, you may not realize because you're still extremely busy, but you're not busy growing your brand. That's number two. So number one, you're using yesterday's tactics. Number two, your focus has drifted from growth to something else. Number three, and this is the one I want to spend just a couple of minutes on, is called the law of shitty cohorts. And no, I did not make that up. The law of shitty cohorts goes like this. The first million or so users that you expose your brand to tend to be the best fit. As you grow from that initial offering and your initial market, and you have to reach out to new customers, they tend not to be as good of a fit. In fact, the actual fit to the demographic that you're marketing to tends to get worse and worse and worse as you grow. Why does that happen? Well, let's use an example. Let's say that you're selling grandma's famous fruitcake, and there are 1,000 monthly searches on Amazon for fruitcake. If you target people looking for fruitcake, that's a pretty good fit for Grandma's Famous Fruitcake. Now, you've maxed that out, you have 50% of market share, and you're ready to move on. You're ready to go to a wider market. So now you might go to Christmas pastries or holiday pastries. That's not a direct fit, but there's probably some conversion that you can get. There's definitely some conversion that you can get there to continue to grow. All right, but you're not going to get 50% of the market, because 50% of the customers searching for holiday desserts are not looking for fruitcake. They might be looking for pecan pie or pumpkin roll or something like that. Now, let's say you get 5% of that market, which it's a big market, so at least at certain times a year. So now you've grown again. You haven't converted nearly as well as you did when you were marketing just for fruitcake, but you got some growth out of it. It's expensive growth, but it's growth. Now you want to grow again. So now you start to target searches for desserts, and it is a bloodbath. You're not going to convert well at all. Why? Because nobody typing in the words desserts wants your grandma's fruitcake. Like nobody. So it's just a really bad fit. Now, it's kind of an extreme version of how the law of shitty cohorts works, but it basically goes like that. You get a smaller market up front, it's a direct fit, and it's almost always a win. But as you grow, that direct fit becomes less and less and less direct. The law of shitty cohorts. The good news is this framework is going to work for all three of those reasons that brands plateau. Okay, now for the good stuff. I'm going to give you the actual formula that we use to bust through plateaus here in Elite Commerce Group. It is a formula that I think about so much. I can't get it out of my head. I dream about it. Like, actually, I've had dreams that I was at the gym and I actually got my bench press up using this formula. It wouldn't work for that, but it works for brand growth on Amazon and pretty much any other digital platform. Here it goes. It is impressions times click-through rate times conversion rate times offer size equals sales. One more time. Impressions times click-through rate times conversion rate times offer size equals sales. Why is that important? Because it's math. Math never lies. If I increase any one of those four factors, my sales will go up. They have absolutely no choice. Now, let me back up just a little bit and let's talk about, make sure we're on the same page about what each one of those are. If a customer types in grandma's, they wouldn't type in grandma's fruitcake, but if they typed in fruitcake and your offer was seen 550 times, that means you have 550 impressions, all right? Impressions are eyeball impressions. They're the amount of times that your offer is seen, impressions. Number two, click-through rate. Once you show up, if you can imagine a search page, whether it is Amazon or Walmart.com or Google or whatever, when that search page comes up and your product gets an impression somewhere on that page, your rate of click-through is the percentage at which a customer clicks into that listing. So if it comes up 100 times, 100 customers see your offer, and 2 customers click into that listing, that is a click-through rate of 2%. Click-through rate. Conversion rate, that happens once a customer is inside of your offer, inside of your listing. So if 10 customers go inside of your listing and 2 purchase, 2 divided by 10 is 20%. You have a conversion rate of 20%. Offer size is the price of whatever I'm selling. If my offer size is $10, it's $10. Math kind of stops there. So again, impressions times click-through rate times conversion rate times offer size equals sales. If I increase any one of those, my sales have no choice but to go up. It's science. So how do we improve those? What is the lever there with each one of those pieces of that equation? Well, impressions, that's easy. It's either more offers or more advertising. That's it. Now, more advertising is usually more expense, So let's just say we're going to focus on the other three. So impressions are what they are. Click-through rate. This one happens to be probably the most powerful. Click-through rate, again, the percentage of customers that see your listing or your offer rather and click into it. What wins click-through? Anything that draws the eyeball away from your competitors. We have that Amazon page or that Walmart.com page, and let's say there are 3 products in a row. Yours is in the center. What draws the customer eyeball into your product and away from your competitors? Well, we really only have a couple of things. Number one, very clear copy. You usually have only a few characters that a customer is going or a shopper is going to see. So make it clear, make it appealing, and make it the thing that you think your customer is typing into that search box. Number two is bright colors. It's just the way the world works. It's the way our tiny brains operate. Bright colors draw the eyeball. If we think that shopping is done at, top of mind and rational thought, you're wrong. It is largely the reptilian brain, and it is reaction over top of mind thinking. So bright colors draw the eyeball. And then last, it's emotional appeal. So whatever the heck we're selling, make sure that what we put in that main image is the thing that actually entices the customer. It makes them feel the feeling they want to feel when they get that product. Click-through rate. Conversion rate, again, happens on page. How do we increase conversion rate? Well, as we say in the food space, sell to the stomach, not the head, right? Again, kind of like that third piece of improving click-through, emotion sells. That's why stores put candy bars by the checkout, right? They sell to the stomach, not the head. They dangle that thing in front of the customer that's going to entice them. So when we get to our on-page content and our on-page video and photo assets, make sure that you're leading with your product in the state that you want your customer to experience it. So if we're talking about food, put it in end use. We don't want to see barbecue rub poured out on a plate. We want to see the ribs. Show me the ribs, baby. That's how you convert customers on a listing. If it's a baby playpen, make sure there's babies enjoying themselves in that playpen while mom is off having a glass of wine or whatever it is. Make sure that you're selling the experience, not necessarily trying to persuade the customer. Sell the experience and your listing will convert. The last one we have is offer size. This is the easiest one to influence, but I find that brand owners are least likely to do this. It basically amounts to raising the price of your offer. Now, I know we have to beat everybody on price because we're the Walmart of our brand, which I think is a terrible idea. Unless you've got amazing purchasing power and you're producing in crazy scale, you should not be trying to win on price, right? That's what Walmart does. You're not Walmart. However, if you have reason to believe that your product is really price inelastic, one of the ways you can increase price to grow your company and grow your sales is to add benefits. Now that could be bundling, it could be multi-packing. That stuff works really well. Variety packs work really well. Lead with your variety packs, drive your PPC or your advertising through your variety packs. And it could be that you just modify your product. You add a feature that your competitors don't have, and now you can charge more. It works. Bottom line is, if you listen to everything that I just said and you said, I don't want to increase my impressions, I don't want to increase my click-through rate, I can't increase my conversion rate, I don't want to raise my price, you are not going to grow. Those are literally the 4 levers that you have to make a product grow once you've hit a plateau. So now, if you want to grow, inversely, you might want to take a look at that framework, impressions times click-through rate times conversion rate times offer size, and figure out which one of those you can reasonably influence to force growth into your product and or brand. Now, the last thing I want to cover here is if you are not persuaded yet, I want to go through the math on one example of what happens when you use this framework, and I want to show you how absolutely powerful it is. One of the biggest things that, one of the biggest challenges that we have in convincing a brand to do something on this framework is they don't really see the power in it, so they don't want to invest. But let's walk through one example, and I want to show you how powerful this can be for your brand. Now, let's take a product that has 100,000 impressions. And let's say that you have a click-through rate, let's say you have 2,032 clicks against those 100,000 impressions. You showed up in search 100,000 times, 2,000 times a customer clicked through into your listing. You can divide your clicks by your impressions, and you have a CTR, or a click-through rate, of roughly 2%. Click-through rate, 2%. Now, out of all of those customers that clicked into your listing, those 2% that clicked in, let's say that 10% of them purchase your product. All right, so 10% of those 2,000 is 200, right? 200 customers of those that went into your listing purchased your product, 200. Now, let's say your offer size is $10. 200 customers out of those that click through purchase your product at $10. That's $2,000 in sales. That product produced $2,000 in sales over a given period. Now, let's say that we keep everything the same. Remember when I talked about click-through and how powerful it was? Let's only change that number. We're going to change it from 2% to 3%. Now, we have 100,000 customers that saw your product, right? 100,000 impressions, and our click-through rate is not 2% now, but 3%. And so now we have 3,000 customers that clicked into your listing. Going from 2% to 3%, it's not nothing, but you still have a very small number of customers that are clicking through. Now, if 3% click through, we have 300 customers. 300 customers times $10 is 3,000. So we just increased our sales, or our business, if we only have one product, by 50%. We literally raised your click-through rate by 1%, and we increased your business by 50%. You can take any one of these numbers, whether it's click-through rate or conversion rate or offer size, and increase them, and you're going to see a massive increase because it is virtually exponential. You can do the same thing through conversion rate. If you go from 10% to 15%, the way the math plays out is a massive, massive growth step. So take this framework, write it down, focus on one piece of that framework, focus on increasing one of them, whether it's click-through through your main image, or conversion rate with your on-page images and copy, or your offer size, even if it's just by a little bit, and set a goal, as we always do. We don't just hope for change, we've set a goal. Set a goal with one or more of those elements of that framework, work toward it, achieve it, and see what it does for your business. It works. Math never lies. Okay, guys, that's it for today, but I have one last plateau breaking gem for you. It works 100% of the time, and that is to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave me a comment so we can continue to help you grow and scale in your digital business.